Hi, I'm Ernie,
And I'm Ben.
and this is Budget Nerds.
What was all in your mind?
You are not alone.
No, you are not. Friends, welcome back to another episode of Budget Nerds. Today, we're sharing some top tips and tricks from the YNAB community.
Yes. Yeah, we asked over on the fans group. Check it out on Facebook, YNAB fans, if you're on there. We asked them, what are your tips and tricks? What's your like real nerdy detailed thing that you do in YNAB that a lot of people might not know about that could be helpful? And we got, I think, like
And
130 comments or something like that. So a lot of responses.
huge response. And this was inspired by a comment from, I think, over a year ago, last summer. I don't even know what the episode was, but I shared a tip, a credit card tip for those folks that pay the card in full. And someone said, "Hey, that's pretty cool. You should do an entire episode with tips and tricks." So we thought that'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, got the feedback from the community, and so we're just going to share a number of those today. And why don't I just kick off with that credit card trick? I'm sure many folks have already heard it, but if we have some new budget nerd fans, maybe haven't, well, here you go. So this is for folks that pay the card in full. If you want a way for the credit card payment category to alert you
Mm-hmm.
when the payment does not match the balance on the card, or I should say, when you don't have enough to pay the card in full all the way down to zero, you can use in the payment category, the pay the entire balance by date target.
Okay.
Set it as far as you can in the future. I think right now you can set it to 2071.
Okay. Okay.
And so then anytime there's less money in the payment to pay the balance all the way down to zero, it will turn yellow
Oh,
and
because you're
alert you that there's probably some overspending going on in a category.
I see, because basically it'll say, "Oh, you need to put 1 cent or something like that into the budgeted column there." The assigned
Yeah.
column, I guess now. And okay. I've forgotten about that tip because I don't really use credit cards, so I never got to try that out. And it makes a lot of sense like why it does that. But yeah, but again, that's specifically only if you pay the balance in full every month, and you always want that to match, right?
Yes. Because up until I was using that little trick, I would just manually always check, maybe once or twice a week or a couple
Mhm.
times a month, whatever the case, making sure, oh, I have enough to pay it down to zero. But now with that target setup in place, I'm just always aware of, is it green or yellow?
Love it, love it.
I
Yeah,
like it.
so it just checks it for you. That's kind of cool. Yeah, and it'd be cool if that was actually like a proper feature, maybe at some point. Maybe there could be even like another target type where you say like, "Oh, I want this to match all the time," or something like that. That'd be
That
kind
would
of
be
cool.
cool. And I do know that the credit card team, product team here at YNAB, they are aware of that trick and that a lot of folks who pay their
Hmm.
card in full are using it. So
Yeah.
maybe
Oh,
someday.
lots and lots of discussions going on about improving credit cards because it needs to be easier to understand for new folks. There's a million ways to improve it. So hopefully we'll be able to do that as we do more research. Okay, I have a tip that I am passionate about. I have a lot of feelings about this, Ernie,
Ooh,
because not a
I
lot of
like
people
it.
know about it, and I just want everybody to know about it. So my little tip and trick is sort of the hidden merge categories feature in YNAB. Now,
It's a good one.
officially, it is not a merge feature, but effectively, it is. So, for a long time, when you delete a category in YNAB, I'm not talking about hiding it, I'm talking about deleting a category. For a long time, since, well, this is the same way in the YNAB 4 days too, I believe. Whenever you deleted a category, it would ask you to recategorize all the transactions in that category, right? And
Yes.
that would create a big old hot mess especially if you had a category where you have transactions going back months or even years. It would just
Yes.
it just mess everything up because all of the transactions would uh, all the transactions would move, but none of the assigned amounts would move. So you basically have tons of overspending is what would happen, right? And it's really a bug is really what it was in the software because it didn't really act the way you might expect. And we had a lot of our support team just begging our product team to fix this because so many people would write in to support and be like, my budget is messed up now, you know. And basically our support team would just be like, just don't delete a category. Right, just don't do it.
But I don't need it anymore.
Right. And that's actually like been in the community too, where people say, don't delete a category, don't delete a category because it just messes everything up. Just don't do it. And it's still a thing. But about a year ago, maybe even 2 years, I think it was a year ago, our product team fixed that where when you delete a category and it asks you to move the transactions to a new category, not only do the transactions move, but also goes back all the way to the beginning of that category, back months or however long you've had it, and it moves all the assigned amounts too. And so it really is effectively a merge categories feature where all the assigned amounts, all the transactions merge. There's no problems whatsoever in the budget. And it's just like, it's like chef's kiss. It's so elegant. And yeah, so if you're in the
Yes.
community and you're like, hey guys, never delete a category, don't say that anymore because you can delete a category and it's totally fine.
I
So I
mean,
love
this
it.
was one of the reasons I always did the fresh start because I would have all of these categories,
Hmm.
not a ton, but a handful every single year that I didn't use anymore. And I hated having them as hidden. So
Yeah,
I do the fresh start. It would empty out all my categories. Then I could easily delete them without messing out the budget at all. But now with this merge feature, oh, it's so slick. I don't feel bad at all about creating a new category for a one off expense or purchase because I know I can just turn around and then delete it, merge it with something
exactly.
else.
Yeah, because we had this whole workaround too when you were saving up for a specific thing. Like if you like, oh, this was like the wish farm method, right? Where you're saving up for like a new phone, right? Or something like that, like something really specific. You could have a category just for that. And then the plan was before you actually spend the money, move that money to a more general category. Like if you're buying a new phone, move it to technology category or something like that. And then make the purchase. Well, now you can make the purchase right there in the category and then you can delete it and merge it later. And that's really nice, especially for like something like a vacation. You can do lots of transactions in this specific vacation category, and then just
Yes.
move it to a general travel category later. And it's just gorgeous. You can even like delete a whole category group and you can merge it. So like you can do all sorts of great stuff like that, and not have to worry about making a big hole in your budget. Right. So I love it. So yeah, try that out sometime whenever you can. It's really cool.
All right, let's get into some of the other tricks now and
Yes.
tips from the community. I'll start. We
Okay.
have one from Joanna. I have a recurring transaction for the yard work. Every time he mows, I add the amount to the scheduled transaction so I know at the end of the month what I'll owe him since he doesn't always do it weekly.
That's a great
Perfect.
idea.
Using
Yeah.
those recurring transactions to track, how much an allowance in this
I
case.
bet the person that does the artwork really appreciates that because, they don't have to hound you for how much they owe you. You already know, right? And you have it written
Yeah.
down. Yeah, that's really perfect for something that's recurring but not consistent. You can just add it on as you go. Love that. Shauna had one also about scheduled transactions. A lot of people do this, and I think it's really cool. Shauna says, I use scheduled transactions for more than just money. I use it for reminders too. For example, I have an annual scheduled transaction for people's birthdays, but I leave the dollar amount at zero and I put in the memo the date and set the transaction for about a week ahead. So I remember to grab a gift and use the money in my gift category. And that's kinda cool because then you could just change the amount on that scheduled transaction and just let it ride, right? So it helps to remember those important dates,
Yeah. I like that idea.
does all that. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, Joanna actually came back and into that comment, she replied and she said, "I use mine to remember to cancel subscriptions also." So you can do all sorts of things. I mean, people use this as almost like a reminder app, right? And it's helpful because and I think
Yeah.
the reason why people do this is because they know if you're a YNABer, you're checking your budget all the time. So you know this is a place that you're going to be looking at consistently, and that's what you need for a good reminder app. You know, you need it. It needs to. You need to put your reminders in a place that you're going to look. That way, you can just go right out of your mind. You don't have to think about it anymore, right? And so people naturally do that with scheduled
I've
transactions all the time.
used Yeah, I've used scheduled transactions to track rebates. Do you have Menards where
Oh
you're at? Big
no,
box
Menards,
home maintenance, home supplier.
Menar.
Menards. Yeah,
Oh, oh, okay, no, that's an interesting name.
they do rebates. It's I don't know. I I'm not gonna say anything else. It's
Is it
just
like
it's not my
a
favorite, but
home improvement kind of thing, or what kind of store is it?
it's home improvement,
Okay.
like a Lowe's or
Yeah,
a
yeah,
Home
yeah.
Depot, right? And instead of giving you savings in the store, you have to
Mm,
mail in a rebate, and then they send you a rebate
I see
check.
what they're doing. That's
And
clever because people will buy the thing because they know it's on sale, but they're counting on you not actually doing the work of mailing in a rebate, right?
right, you pay the full price in the store, and so it all I did it just out of anger. It's like, okay, I want this money back, and I wanna make sure I actually get it. So I would put a scheduled transaction in for the amount of the rebate that was
Mhm.
coming my way, set that to fire for, like, 6 or 8 weeks in advance,
Okay.
but I do so many Menards rebates, it just got to be a little bit too much, so now I'm just like, "Ah, whatever."
You're like, "Yeah, well, that's what they want. That's what
If you
they
don't
want,
send it to
Ernie.
me, I don't care.
That's what they want. You're playing into their
You got
game."
me, I'm burnt out.
Yeah, you can only do it so long. Yeah, well, that's actually kinda cool too because, uh, if you if you add that scheduled transaction for a positive amount in the future, it would show. It would almost be like forecasting a little bit. It would show you what the balance would be at the end of that month. You know what I mean? When you add the scheduled transactions, it does like a little
Yeah.
says, if you do all these scheduled transactions, the balance will be this. And so you can kind of see the look ahead a little bit. That's kind of cool. Man, that's interesting.
We could do
Uh
an entire episode on scheduled transactions. There's a
yeah.
lot
Well,
there, a lot of
Ernie, you got
nerdiness.
me on it. I mean, I wasn't using scheduled transactions at all for years and years, and now I love it. So, yeah, I'm glad that we do this show so I can learn more. And I'll say scheduled transactions were all over this post. There's a lot of that. You want to read Ashley's?
Yeah, absolutely. The little dots to the left of each transaction in the mobile app let you add transactions up. Took me forever to realize this, but making looking at totals on the go so much easier. Yeah, so you can select individual transactions. You can do this on the web app as well,
Mm-hmm.
and then we'll give you that selected total. And so, that's really useful if you're tracking, okay, a certain amount of transactions from the weekend, what I spent or would we
Mm-hmm.
spend on this night out, these 5 transactions, select them, you get that total.
This
I
is what
like
I
that too.
love about being a part of the YNAB community out there all over the internet because you got a mix of like newer YNABers and older YNABers, and people know different things. And I was actually shocked that this was like such a hit on that thread because a lot of people are like, "Oh my gosh, this is so helpful," and there's a lot of likes and comments on this as one of the top ones. And I was like, "Oh, this is just." I thought everybody knew this, but apparently not, And it's almost like a report. Like if you combine searching for features, which like the search feature on YNAB is just top notch. I think it's fantastic. And if you combine searching with this selecting transactions and seeing the total, it kind of becomes a report in YNAB. And I
Yes.
probably use that more than I use the actual reports. you know,
Yeah, me too.
yeah, yeah. So it's really helpful. So yeah, use that search, use the selection, see the totals. Big deal. All right, moving on to Sarah. A lot of talk about emojis in this thread, and I picked Sarah's out. Sarah said, adding emojis to category names makes it more fun, makes them easier to recognize. And that's actually really interesting because I always just thought of it as a fun thing. I mean, like I like a lot of color in my budget and I do a lot of emojis, but she's actually right. A lot of times after I read this comment, I looked at my budget and I was like, oh, what if I want to find the grocery category? And I look for a banana, like, I realized that I actually do look for the emoji, not just the name, and I find the categories quicker, so that's kinda cool, especially if you have a lot of categories. Now you're not huge on the emojis, right, Ernie?
No, I like emojis. All right. I'm all in on
Oh,
emojis.
okay, okay.
I want that to be known,
Alright.
but I use them minimally, right?
Sure.
I think in this case, at least for my budget, less is more.
I get that.
So I put the emojis on the groups.
You gotta respect that. Yeah, put it on the groups, not on everything. Because yeah, I get it. Your budget could get a little busy if you have, a whole lot going on, and I get that. Yeah.
Yep. All right, next one is from Jay, and this is kind of similar to visually enhancing YNAB. Jay says, I found my eyes can handle all my categories better when I space out all of my typing.
How do we explain this on a podcast, Ernie? What does Jay
So
mean
you have
here?
a category, eating out, E space, A space, T space, right?
So it's like,
D- d-
yeah, it's kind of like what's that guy? Oh, you know those little alien comics? I should probably look this up. Oh, Nathan
no
Pyle.
clue.
Yeah, okay, you know Nathan Pyle. He does these. Okay, well they're
I
very
know the
cute.
name.
Okay, okay, yeah, he does this. This is like a thing. He like I don't know why, but in the comments on all of his Instagram, he has like one word that's spaced out, and for some reason you're supposed to read it like spaced out, like you know. What I mean? I don't, anyways, it's like that, but she does that for all of her categories, and I never really thought about that, but that's really interesting way to maybe change it. And I actually didn't do it in my budget, but I almost did, and I was like, this is going to take a lot of work because I have like 65 categories and I got a space between every letter. It's going to take a little while, so I didn't actually do it, but I'm intrigued to see what it would look like.
This is something that I do with emojis. I mean,
Mm.
it's crazy how much time I've devoted to this. I'll I'll create the group and then I'll type it out and then I'll
Uh-huh.
put the emoji and see what that looks like and just kind of stare at it like, okay, what do I like this? And then I'll put a space between the category name and the
Oh
emoji
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
I'll
yeah.
see what I liked better.
That's a whole debate
So there is
too.
something to
Like, where do
spacing.
you put the space? Yeah, I put a space between the name
It,
and the emoji too because it runs together. It doesn't look good to me.
that's what I settled on. Yep.
And then some people are like, "Oh, you have to put the emojis after the name." I always put it before because they need to line up. You know, there's a lot of debate about this.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah, there's a lot. So
okay.
spacing and yeah, it's there. But that'd be interesting. Maybe if you guys could send us some screenshots or something of your categories all spaced out, I'd like to see it. Sarah, there were actually a lot of Sarahs in this thread, so I'm going to call this Sarah number 1. Or no, this is Sarah number 2, actually. I think we already read Sarah number 1. So we got Sarah number 2 says, use a colored dot before each category to know what I can use to cover overspending. Okay, so she's color coding these categories with emojis, but just like a little dot emoji. A red dot means don't touch that. Yellow dot means if everything else is zeroed out, you can get to that. And a green dot means move however you want. Okay, so it's just like a little traffic light symbol for her to say, what can I use rule 3 on? And what do I need to just not use rule 3 on? And this would be really good, I think, especially if, maybe if you're budgeting with a partner and you're the budgeter, you're the nerd, you're the one that does most of the work, but you want to signal to other people using the budget, hey, this category is free reign, you can take money out of there, this one's not, so that'd be really helpful.
I never thought of it from that angle. That would be really helpful.
Hmm.
And I think even for the main budgeter, I mean, just visually being able to quick lock in on, okay, these are the categories that I can move money from. That'd be really helpful.
Yeah, I mean, I think about a lot of people do this with category groups too, like I think about like fixed versus flexi category group, that kind of thing. But you could do this it's almost like a meta information thing, I guess, where you have details about the category that aren't listed in a group or anything like that.
All right, next one from Malin or Malin. I apologize if I butchered your
I
name
think it
there.
gets Malin. It's probably right.
Malin? Okay.
I don't know.
I'm horrible at pronouncing names. It makes me sweat profusely in workshops when I have a name come through. I'm like, oh my goodness, I have
do you
no
ever
idea how
like
to pronounce
you
this.
ever okay? So like this is a thing in the workshops. I don't teach workshops that much anymore. But do you ever do this, Ernie, where like you can see everybody's names listed like before the workshop begins as they're filing in, and I'll like pull up pronouncenames.com and I'll like put some of those names in there just in case they ask a question. I want to say their name right.
No lie, I do that probably 90% of my workshops. It I mean, it gives me so much anxiety thinking about mispronouncing names.
It's like the most nervous thing ever. But also, like, you want to, especially if somebody has a name that is commonly mispronounced. If you can pronounce it right, it makes them feel really good. So,
Yes.
it's a nice thing to do. But also, yeah, it's for my own anxiety. I get that. I know exactly how you feel.
Ask me any question about YNAB. Ask me, difficult credit card flow questions. Those don't scare me. Your name? That terrifies me.
Exactly.
Okay.
All right. So, what did
Anywho,
the name that we will not say again, in case we say it wrong? What did they say?
the tip here, it's kind of a phone trick rather than a YNAB trick, but I've created automations on my phone that remind me to add transactions to YNAB when I leave areas where I usually spend money, like shopping centers, grocery
Mm.
stores, etc. So if I didn't add the transaction immediately, my phone wouldn't let me forget. That's pretty clever.
There's a whole
I
host of iOS shortcut things you can do. Do you use any of those, Ernie?
I don't.
So I do a little bit. I haven't done so what Malin's doing is like I think it's called like a geofence thing basically, where like basically a store has like a general location where it is, and if you leave that little fence, that little geofence, it'll just, if you enter it and then you leave it, when you leave it, it'll give you a little notification saying, "Hey, put in a transaction." It's just pretty cool, and you can click
It,
that, and it'll actually bring up that transaction screen.
but that's something that like that's not in YNAB. Someone can't
No,
turn that on.
that would
So
be a shortcut. Yeah, the shortcuts app on iOS. I think you might be able to do it on Android too, but I'm not sure how.
okay.
I do whenever I open my banking app, there's a little notification will pop up that says that if I tap it, it will go to YNAB. It will go to the YNAB transaction screen. And
Oh,
it's actually really helpful because I get a little notification every time any money's spent on my main checking account, right? And so I can kind of like sit down and process. I can go through every single notification, click on it, or tap on it, and see the amount, and then immediately tap on the little notification that comes up, because as soon as I go into that app, basically YNAB's like, "Hey, you want to come into my app instead?" And I'll tap that, and it'll go there. So it's just kind of, I don't
got
know.
it.
It's really not a big deal because it's probably more work just to set up the set up the shortcut, but it's kind of cool. Oh, another one that's just nerdy cool. Credit cards and debit cards have a little RFID tag on them now. That's why you can tap it, on a when you can tap to pay, that kind
Oh,
of thing,
sure.
right? Your phone can read that little tap thing, that little RFID tag on there, and if you, so I have an automation set up where if I put my here, I can just show you. Hang on. Okay, I'm back. I have my debit card. SoFi, not a sponsor. And let's see if this works, like, on the podcast here. If
Oh, wow.
if you're
Never
not watch
tried this before.
if you're not watching on YouTube, sorry, but okay. So this has a little. I guess it's RFID. Anyways, I'm gonna put this on the back of my phone here, and there's a little notification. If I tap that, brings up the YNAB transaction screen.
Whoa.
Isn't that cool? I'll do it again for anybody who wants to see it. Take the phone, tap it on the back. Wait, actually, I need to get out of YNAB because otherwise it won't be cool. Tap it on the back. Little
Boom.
notification pops up, and there it is. Isn't that cool? It's kind of neat.
So do you use that?
No, I don't ever use it.
But it's
And
cool.
it's cool. No, I like literally never use it, but I did set it up because I saw it in on Reddit or in the fans group or somewhere, and I was like, that's just neat. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I'm
yeah.
totally old school when it comes to transactions. I have text messages set up with my bank. So anytime I swipe the card or there's new spending, I get a text message.
Mhm.
And that's just really helpful when I'm running a ton of errands. That way, I don't have to enter the transaction after every store. I just wait till I get home and enter them all at once.
Yeah, it just kind of creates a list for you to process, right? So,
Yes.
so sorry for everybody listening on the podcast. You didn't get to see me do my stuff, but that's why you should go over to YouTube, and watch on YouTube. You can see the nerdy stuff happen over there too. All right, what's next? So Nancy says, when setting up the widget, I select my most frequently used on the go categories, tapping a category takes you directly to adding a transaction in that category. So this is another, little phone trick, right? Yeah, so this is a thing on iOS, and I believe there are widgets on Android as well. But as you can see, I do use an iPhone, so um, I'm not actually sure exactly how that works. But at least on iOS, if you tap on the category on your widget, it just brings up the transaction screen, and it adds that category automatically, which is just super nice. So that's another way to make it go a little bit faster. And it
Yeah,
really is
and you
just
can
being
also
nerdy.
use that widget to quickly see what a category balance is.
Hmm.
And then once you've checked that, did the spending, boom, tap on it, enter that transaction.
Yeah, yeah. So it's not just a read thing; it's a write thing too.
Jana Lee says it's a simple one, but we flag all our tax deductible things. Flags is a I'm glad someone mentioned flags because you can use flags to track, transactions a number of different ways. In this case, for tax deductible expenses, I love that. Other folks have used flags for, vacations. If you have various trips throughout the year, this one is red, this one is orange, whatever the case may be. What else do people use flags for?
Yeah, I mean, if you have a business, it's definitely a huge. I mean, I happen to know Jana Lee. She's actually a YNAB coach, so I know her pretty well, and so she has that business. I think she probably has. I think she has some other business stuff going on. So if you're running a business, especially if you're not necessarily using a separate account, which generally it's a good idea to use a separate business account. But if you're using the same account, then definitely tagging it as tax deductible is really really helpful.
And then you can also quickly search those by flags,
Yes, yeah,
which
you
I
just
think is really
search,
helpful.
just type in red or whatever, and it'll show up all the red stuff. It would also, if you type in flag colon red, it'll only show the the red flags. I think that's how you do it. So Liza has a good one here. She said, I figured out today that I can use the reconcile button to see how much the difference is instead of calculating the difference, trying to find the missing transaction, entering the transaction, and then pressing the reconcile button. I never wanted to reconcile if the amount was different, but it is actually a useful tool if it is different. And I learned about it today in this group. Oh, that's really cool. Yeah. So I think a lot of people feel like you have to make sure your balances match and then click the reconcile button, right? But I don't do this. I click the reconcile button when I'm ready to
Yep.
sit down and reconcile. I click it right away. I put in the amount, and it tells me the difference, and then I can just add transactions and clear them, and it'll get smaller and smaller. And it's so helpful because when you get close, it'll be like, oh, there's like a $14.82 difference. And I'm like, that sounds like it could be, some transaction, and I'll like search on my bank app or my bank website, $14.82, and usually boom, that transaction will come up. So that's the missing transaction. It's really really helpful.
Yes.
And even
Very
when the
helpful. And
balances do match, I still say no. Do you ever do that, Ernie? So what happens? You click on the reconcile button. It says, "Is your balance this amount?" I just always click no. I never say yes. And then
that's actually a tip that someone on the YNAB team
it was a hot
let
take. Yeah.
yeah, was that Nate?
I don't remember who it was. Could
I
look it
think
up.
it was Nate,
Yeah, I think you're probably right.
one
He
of the
was like,
developers.
you should always say no. That way you don't have to actually visually compare. It's kind of like your credit card tip, right? You don't want to have to visually compare these numbers.
Yeah.
If you just say no and then paste the thing in there, if you have the bank app open anyway, right? And you paste that
Yep.
number in there, it'll just say, okay, the difference. It's actually kind of funny because it'll come up and say the difference is zero, and you're like perfect, and you say finish reconciliation, and you're done. It's actually more clicks that way, but you don't have to actually do look at the numbers at all.
That's
You can
the
just
thing.
paste it.
I was having trouble remembering the numbers, because I'd go to my bank app and I'm like, okay, 578.01, 578.01,
Right.
578.01. And then I'm going into wine at wait, what was it?
Yeah.
587.0. Oh, geez, go back, So now I'm just like copying and pasting. I'm like, takes out any
Yeah.
human error
Yeah,
or
it's
less
especially good if you
chance of
can't,
human error.
like, have the windows both up at the same time, like, maybe you're working on a small or on your phone or on a small app. Although you have your phone out, right? And then you have your
Yes.
yeah,
A
you
lot
always
of times I do use my phone. So
so
yeah,
you
it
have your
doesn't work in
phone
those
and then you
cases.
have yeah, so you wouldn't be able to copy paste, but it is kinda nice to be able to just do that, and you don't have to actually visually compare the numbers, so that's kinda fun.
All right, this one's from Ginger. I might say that there is not near enough love given to file import. Amen.
Yes.
File import with my coffee every day, never more than 10 minutes, and usually just 5. File
So
based
true.
import is so slick.
It
Download that
really is.
transaction file from your bank and just drag it into YNAB. And did you know, Ben, you can drag, maybe I've said this on previous episodes, you can drag multiple files at once. So download your
Oh,
checking, your numerous credit
yes.
cards, grab them all, bring them in, and then you can sort out those transactions or those files in YNAB.
So do you like
It'll do it for
assign?
you. So
Does it do it automatically, or do you assign like this files for this account and do it that way?
yes, you pick the account that the transactions are going to be dropping in,
Nice,
but then you
dude.
don't have to do them one by one.
It's such a slick feature, and I feel like people just, we're just like, oh, we're in the modern era, and you should never have to, like it does feel a little bit dorky, like a little bit old fashioned, like downloading like a Quicken
It
file. Like,
does.
what in the world? You're downloading a Quicken file, right? But it's super quick, especially with the way browsers are now, where you can do things like that pretty quick,
Yep.
and just drag it in anywhere in YNAB. Like you just drop it in the budget screen or wherever. You don't have to
And
do anything special. Just drag it and
what I
drop it.
like about file-based import is I get to do it when I want.
Mhm.
Sometimes, with my banks, they're only importing once a day. So that's the
Right.
limit that they've set with our import providers is every 24 hours. And so sometimes I log in, I know there's clear transactions. They're sitting right there at my bank, but they haven't come through in YNAB. And then I'll have to wait, sometimes 6 or 8 hours till it gets to that 24-hour mark. So I'm just like, forget this. I'm going to
Yeah.
drag that file in. Boom, I'm done.
Yeah, or if your connection is down for any reason, which happens sometimes, you don't have to sit around and wait. You don't have to enter transactions yourself if you don't want to. Just grab that file, if your bank has it. Now, my bank, I got a bone to pick with SoFi here. Because they don't do it. Like they only let you download a PDF, which YNAB cannot read because it's basically like a photograph, right? And
Yeah.
it makes me. I've tweeted at
Jeez.
them. I don't tweet at companies. That's not a thing I do. But I've tweeted. I've like sent like 2 tweets in the past like 20 years, or how long has Twitter been around? Like, and that's one of them.
SoFi. Stop this PDF
Come
nonsense.
on, guys, give me a Quicken file. I was especially needing it when because we switched to Plaid, and Plaid did not. This is getting in the weeds, but Plaid did not connect with SoFi, and but it was fine. Like I was adding transaction manually, but sometimes if I gone a little while, it would just be nice to be able to import,
Yep.
But I
Yep.
couldn't do it. I had to do it. But now it connects to SoFi, and it's like it works perfect. So haven't had any
Okay. So
problems.
you can import at least one way.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
All right, Celia. I think this one needs a little explanation. So Celia is one of the admins on the fans group. Shout out to Celia, and also a YNAB coach. She says, "I use a split $0 transaction to automatically distribute my children's allowance each week." Okay, so Ernie didn't want to read this
Interesting.
one because he didn't understand it. So I'm gonna.
I'm like, what is Celia talking about?
Okay, so this is what I think is happening here. Okay, so she has, let's say she has 2 kids. I'm not sure how many kids she actually has, but let's say she has 2, and she gives each of them $10 a week for an allowance. Okay, that's just a hypothetical. So that would be $80 a month in an allowance category, right? Like just a single category, and then she has a category for kid number 1 and a category for kid number 2, right? Rather than actually going in and moving that money from the allowance category, she does it automatically with a transaction. So I think what the transaction would look like, it'd be a split transaction, and the amount of the transaction would be $0. Okay.
Yep.
And then there be an outflow. So that you have one line. Hopefully I can explain this. So there would be one line item with the allowance category with $20 in the outflow. Okay. So $20 is
Yes.
leaving, and then there'd be an inflow line item going into kid 1 allowance, of $10, inflow of $10, and there'd be an inflow of $10 into the second kid's allowance category. Okay, and this is all just set up in a scheduled transaction. So there's $10 going to one kid, $10 going to the other kid, $20 coming out of the allowance category. So the net is 0. So there's no
So money's
actual.
not leaving the budget.
Right. Basically, what you're doing, instead of using the assigned column to move the money, you're using
Got
the
it.
the activity column to move the money, and you don't have to do anything; it just happens, right? And then,
Yes.
and so you've automatically distributed your kid's allowance, and you don't even have to think about it because she set up a scheduled transaction to do it. So that's kind of fun.
Okay, that makes sense. And yeah, that's pretty cool because instead of going in every week and manually moving that, like that can, I'd forget to do that.
Exactly.
Just
Exactly.
automate it there with that scheduled transaction. Cool. Courtney's tip was use your memo line. Helps so much when spending from categories not often used or those maintenance categories. If you use without a refresh, you can search for or sort by memo to see when you last had an oil change or
Hmm.
how much the dog's annual visit was so you can prep for the next year. Couldn't live without my memos.
Yes, I love
Yes,
using
there's a lot
memos.
of power with those memos.
Yeah, yeah.
Do
One
you use
person.
memos, Ben?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, all the time. Especially for, I think she actually, I think she talked about this in her comment elsewhere as well in that thread. If you have like a big box store, where you don't know what you bought because they sell everything like Amazon or Walmart, especially if there's like a split transaction, I'll actually write out what I bought just so I have a record of it if I ever need to use that search feature and look it up. Like how much did it cost last time I bought some socks? At Walmart. I can search socks and it would pop up. It's like you can do things like that.
Sure. I don't use a whole lot of memos, only if it's something I feel like I need more information on.
Yeah.
Something I'm actually going to refer back to. Like I'm never going to care about how much I spent on socks last winter, but I'm just
Probably
looking
true.
through some of my memos and we have two vehicles. We pay registration for both of them and so I have, the Odyssey. Actually, we don't have an Odyssey anymore. That's the Sienna that's due in July.
Mm,
And then the other one is, our Corolla in May. I think we pay that registration. And I
yeah.
don't have many other memos that I've used recently.
I'm looking at my budget right now. I don't have a whole lot either. So I have one called, the payee is to my city because the Parks and Rec is hosting a daddy daughter dance, which is just great. We haven't been able to, they do it every year, but we haven't been able to do it since the before time, since the thing we won't mention, anyway, since the pandemic. So we haven't been able to do that in a while. So I wrote in the memo daddy daughter dance. And that's really helpful because the payee doesn't give me any information because I use that payee for when I pay the water bill, when I pay the trash bill, like anything I pay to the city, or pay taxes to the city. But the memo would come up, so I'd be like, oh, how much does that cost? I can look it up. What else? I bought a donut for my sister. Okay, so I put my sister's name there in the memo, just so I think it's because I don't buy donuts anymore, and so I wanted to say it wasn't for me.
Okay. Just covering all your bases. Yeah,
I'm
I get
holding it for
that.
a friend, I swear. Oh, I went to Walmart and I bought some pool supplies. I bought some borax and some clarifier. These two chemicals I put in my pool. And I put a note of what I bought there. And that's really helpful because if I want to know like how much that kind of costs, maybe I should have split it out and put the actual amount. Yeah, I'm not going to care. You're right, Ernie. It's like how much work do you want to put in for how much you're going to get out of it, right? So,
Yeah. Okay, here's the last memo I'm going to share because this one actually
okay,
had me super excited. I bought some sod a couple weeks ago, had a small
nice.
little lawn renovation project going on here, and I in the memo I put how many rolls I used. So 6 rolls.
Oh, that's
And
helpful. Yeah.
I was like, "Oh, really?" I remember being excited to enter that in because I know I'm going to buy some more sod some point next spring, and
Hmm.
so then I get to reference back.
Yeah. The theme I'm seeing is when the payee does not give you the information about what you bought, then I'll usually put a memo in. Like I bought a video game on Steam, which is like where you can buy lots of different video games, and I put in the name of the video game I bought, which was Card Shark. Check that out. Card Shark. It's a new game.
Hmm.
It's a little indie game. It's pretty interesting. Anyways, check that
Okay, last memo
out.
tip. Sorry, I just thought of this.
Oh, do it.
Anytime
That's
I'm
it.
dealing with Venmo or PayPal, one of those
Yes.
payment processor, instead of like changing because if it auto imports and I don't enter that transaction myself, I don't want to create a renaming rule. So if I got, a PayPal from a friend and I put that
Hmm.
friend in, then every time I get PayPal again in the future, it's going to rename to the friend
Yeah, you
unless I
don't want
change
that.
the renaming rule. So I just keep it PayPal or Venmo and then in the memo who I got that money from.
I do that as well. I do, me. I like playing poker. I've talked about that quite a bit on the podcast here, and I have So I'm the one that runs the poker thing. So like my friends will have to send me money. They give me cash or they Venmo me. And then when we buy out, I give them money back, right? So that's how it works. And so I
Okay.
literally have Cash App and Venmo. I have like from one night, I have 10 transactions, right?
Oh, wow.
And that and I put a note. I said, "John." So I have Bethy buy in, Wes's buy in, John buy in, he had to buy in a few times that night because he wasn't doing too well. Jordan's buy in, and then I have uh Jordan cash out, Trevor's cash out, John cash out. So I have like a note of in the memo of what all those Cash App or Venmo transactions are. So there you go.
All right. Another tip from a Sarah. This is Sarah number 3. And this one's
Yes.
fantastic. And I
Sarahs
have
are
to say,
representing
we didn't
today.
pay Sarah. Yeah, we didn't pay Sarah to say this, though.
But we are
Sarah
going to say it
says,
on the
read the
podcast
book.
because number 1,
Oh,
read the book.
absolutely. Read the book. Number 2, spend your free trial month obsessively watching YNAB videos. And I will add in there taking workshops, live workshops.
Yes, exactly.
Number 3, spend your second or third YNAB month doing the More Money Challenge, and you'll have a year's subscription saved in no time.
Love it. Thank you for plugging
Love
all
that.
the things, Sarah. Check out the book. Check out our videos. Check out the More Money Challenge. I love it. Yeah, Sarah knows how to get on to Budget Nerds. Just say that. All right.
Well, and I mean, it just makes sense too. Like there's this momentum
Mm,
build. You get fired up reading the
totally.
book. I remember reading Jesse's book even
Mhm.
after I had been with YNAB for a number of years. It fired me up. And
Yeah,
so, yeah, and then watching those videos, just learning some more tips and tricks, and then the More Money Challenge, just save a boatload of money.
there you go. Amber says, use the reporting functionality to track trends, which are mostly just going up in money right now, she said, and especially in variable categories such as grocery, utilities, etc. Yeah, Ernie and I, we've talked about this before. We're not big reporting people, right? We don't use the reports a whole lot. But if I am using a report,
Yeah.
it is the spending trends report. I use that quite a bit. Well, more than any other report, I guess I should say. And it's actually really helpful right now. I saw on Reddit recently somebody said, um, somebody posted their trend for gas spending. And it's like an
Hmm.
exponential curve right now. It's just like it's kind of sad. It literally looks like a curve
Yeah.
going up. And I went and looked, and yep, same thing. It's like, oh, but that's really helpful because it's a good indication of maybe even projecting in the future of what it might be, but also just saying, hey, this is how much I'm spending, and it's tending to go up over the past 5 or 6 months, so maybe I should shoot a little high there when I budget next month.
And you can slice and dice the data in a number of different
Oh
ways.
yeah.
Whatever's helpful to you. I was just kind of interacting with a budget nerd fan, a YNAB user in the comments of one of our videos talking about reporting with credit card spending.
Hmm.
And you can filter by credit card account to see exactly how much you have spent on credit card expenses for whatever time frame you find helpful. So that was something that I even as because I was going through the steps as I was preparing an answer for this YNABber. And I'm like, oh, this is actually kind of cool to look at my spending through the lens of how much did I spend on my credit card, how much did Chrissy spend on her credit card. Interesting stuff.
Yeah. I don't even really use the pie chart that much. I mean, it's kind of so like when you go to the spending report on the web app, there's a pie chart and then there's trends. And the pie chart's kind of cool because you can compare how much you're spending on one thing. It kind of gives like shows your values almost, all at once. But the trends are where it's at. I think that's where it's really interesting. Is like basically turning that into a bar chart and looking at that over time.
You know what? We need to dig into reports sometime, Ben. We need to find a team member
We should.
who lives and breathes YNAB
That's a good
reports.
idea. That's a
Bring
good
them
idea.
on.
Since we're
And
like, we need to find an actual budget nerd who actually likes reports
yeah, yeah.
and dig into it. Because I feel like I'm probably missing something, because I don't look at the reports enough. There's probably some information there that could be really valuable if I just took some time in it.
All right. And the final tip comes from Mary. Put the subcategories in alphabetical order, easier to find what you're looking for. Great tip. drag and drop those categories, alphabetical order. You can't automate that process, but you can drag and drop them. And then, yeah, I agree. It is easier to find those categories.
This is very interesting to me because I'm a former library worker. I used to work in a library. The alphabet is very ingrained in my soul. Like
Okay.
alphabetical order, I could get some categories in alphabetical order and lickety split, like no problem. And I often think about this when I'm looking at a category group. I'm like, what's the rationale for why this category is above this category? And I move them around sometimes, and it annoys my wife because she can't find anything, because and I'm like, I just feel like I should see this category first. It's more important to see, like, yeah, I don't know why. I just move them around, but maybe I should just make it simple, do alphabetical, and then I don't have to worry about it.
I alphabetize all my groups.
Oh, really? So you do this?
Yeah, I do.
Oh,
I do.
hmm.
Well, I do the groups and then I do the subcategories as well.
Really interesting.
Yeah, it just
Okay,
makes sense to me.
it doesn't make sense, because that's what you want, is you want to be able to find things easily, right? And
Yeah.
that would help you find things easily. All right, maybe it's time for a little experiment, because I recently changed up my category groups slightly, and now, but I have fewer groups, so there's more. Some of them are pretty large, and that's the problem. Is like I can't find what I need really quickly. So
Okay.
maybe alphabetical order. Yeah, I could try it. I'm just worried that the emojis won't line up right, like they won't look right.
Just
That's
put them on the end.
no, no, I'm not putting. You can't put the emoji. What are you, crazy? Putting emojis on the end. It looks terrible. Then they're all flippity floppy all over the place. It's
I
terrible.
shouldn't have said that. Mine are in the front as well. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Let us know in the comments. Do you put your emojis at the end or at the front? And we can yell at each other about that. That sounds like fun.
And I will say this, since we're wrapping up the show here and we're mentioning that, folks watching the YouTube video, you can sound off in the comments. We now have a way for the podcast listeners to communicate with the
Oh
budget nerds.
yeah.
You can email us, budgetnerds@youneedabudget.com. So you can drop in YNAB wins. You can ask questions, um, episode ideas, whatever's on your mind. Love to
Do we
hear from
need
you.
do we need like a jingle, like budget nerds at you need a budget.com? I just did it. There it is. Budget nerds at you need a budget.com. Yeah, it'll be different next time. But there you go. So you can remember it, because it's very hard to remember, clearly. Yeah, send us an email.
Awesome.
We'd love to see it. Also, if you're, and that'd be perfect, especially if you're on just listen to the podcast and you're like, I can't leave a YouTube comment because I'm not let's watch it on YouTube. Well, now you can let us know what you think just by sending us a quick little email. Perfect.
Perfect. Well, thanks again, Ben. This was a lot of fun. And thanks for the tips and tricks from the community. Really appreciate those. We'll see you in another couple weeks. Happy budgeting, folks.
Happy budgeting.
Hi, I'm Ernie. Hi, I'm Ernie. Is it the pause?
I don't know. I just get the giggles. I was like thinking, like, when he says hi, I'm Ernie, I'm gonna laugh again, and I'm like, I'm not gonna do it. I'm just gonna not do it. And then you said it, and I laughed. All right.